Hello and welcome to the Awesome 180 channel. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we're going to be talking about that afternoon slump that takes place. You know, when you have just finished eating a meal and it's around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and you just start feeling so drained and tired, your eyes start feeling heavy, you're listening or you're working on some boring project and you just want to put it away and stop. That is the time I'm talking about. Because many of us find this time a complete waste. And there are three things that I want to share with you and one bonus tip at the end on what you can do at this point of time to avoid that afternoon slump. Okay, so the first and the easiest one is to have light afternoon meals. Don't have those carb heavy afternoon meals filled with rice, filled with rotis, filled with desserts. Because what happens is that your blood sugar goes up when you eat all these carbohydrate rich foods and then it crashes afterwards. It just comes all the way down, and that afternoon slump is nothing but that sugar crash that takes place. And why does it happen? It's very interesting. We eat something, the carbohydrates turn into sugar. The sugar comes into our bloodstream. Once it comes into our bloodstream, insulin is produced. And now insulin wants to lower the blood sugar. And once it starts lowering it, it doesn't know exactly how much to lower it by. So it lowers and overcompensates, and hence it goes down far more than it should. That slump is what we feel as the afternoon low. Now what's interesting is that many a times when we have these carb heavy meals, we end up making bad decisions afterwards as well, because when we have that slump or when we are low energy, our decision making ability is dramatically decreased. So keep away from those carbs during lunchtime and you'll notice a change in the way that you eat and function through the day. The second thing I like to do to avoid that afternoon slump is to set up meetings with people from that 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock time frame. So I'll set up meetings with my clients, or I'll set up meetings with the people that I'm partnering with, collaborating with. And what we do at that point of time is, because there's interaction, that sleep disappears and there's no need for that lethargy to set in. Also, the mind is occupied by something else. So this is a great way to prevent that afternoon slumber. What you can do is make a habit of filling up that 2 to 4 time with meeting with people. As it is, when you meet with people, hopefully you're going to keep your video on. That's a very important tip right there. On your Zoom calls, please always keep your video on. And when your video is on, the chances of you yawning or starting to fall asleep are much lesser. So use this as a tool to avoid that afternoon slump and be productive in the afternoon as well. The third thing that you can do is move your body, because what happens is very often we eat and then we just sit in one place, and then we faff in one place, and then we don't feel like moving from that one place. But what is important is that if you actually move at that point of time, like go for a walk around 2 o'clock after your lunch, or if you do a few micro workouts like just 20 squats, maybe a few push-ups, maybe a little just running in place, jumping jacks, around 3 o'clock, you will notice that this afternoon slumber disappears. The body is just craving a little bit of movement. The idea behind the walk after the lunch is also interesting. What happens is that it helps regulate your blood sugar after that big meal that you've eaten. So the insulin response is not as much. And that is important again, because what we want to do is we want to minimize that crash that takes place afterwards. You can do this by eating less carbs, you can do this by moving more as well. So typically if I would have a very, very big carb heavy lunch, I would definitely do a little bit of movement around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And your final habit comes in the way of a tip. Now I know the temptation is strong to have a coffee maybe at around 2 o'clock or 2:30 immediately after lunch, because that's when you start feeling sleepy. Now what happens when you have your coffee or tea at that point of time is that coffee starts stimulating your digestive system. Have you noticed that you need a cup of coffee to go to the loo in the morning? Yep, that's because it starts moving the muscles that actually help with the excretion. So what we need to do is we realize that immediately once you've eaten, we should not be thinking about using those muscles to start excreting the poop, right? Or moving the food from our bowels. So as a result, what we want to do is not have coffee for at least an hour or so, or maybe 2 hours after lunch. So the tip comes here as have your next coffee after lunch at 4 o'clock. This is important because what happens at 4 is that you have enough time for the caffeine to enter your bloodstream, get used up. Remember, caffeine has a half-life, so it lasts in your body for about 6 hours, and you want that to get used up, so by around 10 o'clock in the night you don't have caffeine in your system and you can sleep well. This is so essential for all of us to do. It is something that we don't focus on enough, unfortunately, but it's an important part of the way that we live. Of course, having said all of this, I do feel a power nap is something that we can all use. It is essential, but if you're going to be working through the afternoon, these are fantastic ways of not falling asleep. If you have the ability to take a power nap, set a timer for 20 minutes and pass out. That is the best way to get this whole afternoon snooze out of your system. So share with us in the comments below, do you snooze in the afternoon? Do you feel sleepy? Try some of these habits and tell me what you think about them. Remember, if you like videos like this, don't forget to hit subscribe and the little bell icon. Also, please give a like to the video so it helps and improves the algorithm. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and remember, awesome lives, they start with awesome habits.